300 people affected. We've been providing them with food on a daily basis. Also, we provided them with blankets. They are currently staying on a temporary basis in these community facilities, but we want to work with them quickly to normalize so that they can't stay here for too long. These halls were not built as places of residence. There could otherwise be problems. We have children here, we have women, we have men. So we are working on this interim basis to house them here. But we're very happy that today the skies are clear, but we will continue to monitor the weather. We don't want them to rush back too quickly, but we also can't have them here for too long. I would like to thank the communities for the amazing response in helping those who have been displaced, who have been affected, and this also includes the NGOs, non-governmental organizations that have come out in large numbers. They are coming here to provide all kinds of assistance. They are providing all kinds of assistance facilities. They are also providing food, working with government, also providing food parcels for the members of the community here. We know that climate change is a reality. It affects largely poor people, but we also know that sometimes one of the big problems is city planning, where our people often settle in areas that are low-lying areas, including on riverbanks. We must continue to urge them not to settle in those areas where it may be difficult. Climate variability is a big problem all over the world. Today, in areas where there were no floods, those areas are also affected by flash floods. So the Gauteng province is under severe strain because of these floods, but it is the city of Tshwane and communities like Mamelodi that have been hardest hit, and that's why the provincial government and the city have been here from the first day to assist those who are affected. And we will not rest until we have resettled the people in appropriate places. But one of the key things also includes urging people not to go back where they have built on flood plains, basically. Some of them right in places where you know. Slight rain, there's going to be water in those areas. It's not easy, but leadership is also about that. Persuading people that they can't settle everywhere. But all these are the effects of climate change. It hits the poorest most, where the infrastructure is not well developed. And we must work with our communities to ensure that even with our cities, our municipalities, to create infrastructure, that the type of infrastructure that is able to cope with the climate variability and the difficulties that we are facing on a daily basis.
Thank you very much, Premier. It's yourself and then Pat, you come.
Sorry, some of the people at Eerste Fabriek is already rebuilding where the shacks were washed away, saying they have nowhere else to go. What is your message to them, and is the province going to help find another place for these people to relocate?
We always work with our municipalities to ensure that where people have been affected by flooding of the scale we have here, we work with those members of the community to persuade them to locate away from another floodplain, because we don't want to lose more lives. We have already lost 2 lives. We will urge them. We know it's not easy. We will urge them, don't rebuild right on the floodplain, because the consequences are that it may be another loss of life. I have been working in this area on a lot of occasions, have come to people to persuade. People are locating in places that are very difficult for infrastructure. Some built right on mountains. I've been here to address people who have built where it is going to be very difficult for government to bring infrastructure there. But it is always a challenge, yes. Community members always try to resist, but we are going to really persuade them that they need to work with us to ensure there's proper planning. They are located where we will be able to bring infrastructure. We also want to discourage in occasions where people illegally occupy land, because it is also in those spaces where we have great difficulty. But we will work with our communities. We can't blame them now. The critical thing is that when you have a disaster, you respond by mobilizing everybody to work with communities to deal with the disaster. And the rest we will sort out when we have solved the problem we have now. We have 1,300 people who have been affected and displaced by these floods that have hit our province. Our focus now is to help save lives and ensure that those who are in our community halls have something to eat and they are as comfortable as possible. It is not possible to be comfortable here, but as far as possible, just as an interim intervention.
Pat?
Mr. Makhura, year in, year out, you see the same occurrence when the floods start. Is there perhaps a permanent plan the government is working on that can serve as a deterrent to keep people away from these risky areas? It's good to urge them, but as my colleague just said, we pass them and they rebuild it. It means if the floods start tomorrow, we're back to square one. Is there another harsher measure or stronger measure we can use to keep them away? It's their lives, after all.
Yeah, I want to say that just at the beginning of the 6th administration, we have reinstated a unit in the provincial government that's called Urban Planning Unit. And I emphasize that we need to ensure proper planning and location of people and proper infrastructure. We shouldn't allow people just to settle everywhere in Gauteng, because the urban form, the urban structure of our province will be distorted by people settling anywhere they want. There won't be proper integration of our communities. There will also be social marginalization of others. So I want to emphasize that the solution in this particular case is urban planning. Our cities must enforce bylaws. People mustn't be left there for 2 days, for 2 weeks, settling in an area where we know once there are floods. Climate change, as I said, it's a big problem. So we want to enforce the bylaws, but we also want to ensure proper urban planning, which we are now doing in our province everywhere. We want to settle people where we want to settle them. In other areas, we want to build factories. In some other spaces, we want to use those spaces for social amenities, for our children to be able to play. But we can't allow people to build everywhere, because it is that which creates a problem. So the solution, I think, is better planning, but also proactive planning. But even that planning requires community mobilization and community participation. We are a democratic government. We are a humane government. We cannot use the hammer on our people. We have to persuade them that don't settle here. We've got to work with them, larger numbers of them, to say this area is dangerous, this is dolomitic land. You may have a sinkhole on this area. So it's not just about flooding. We also have other problems related to the climate in this area, including the fact that Gauteng has huge dolomite. The Centurion area is always hit by sinkholes. But if you allow people to settle everywhere, you set up infrastructure there, you put up water pipes, in no time they'll burst. Or you put up gas pipes, there will be another disaster. So all I would emphasize is that it's working with people, persuading them, mobilizing them, working with our councillors to say to them there is danger here. We cannot use lethal force to do so. But we want to say that I think we will also enforce bylaws. Bylaw enforcement. I was in Alexandra many times. I was in Alexandra yesterday. People insist on building on the banks of the Jokskei River. Every year when there's heavy rains, we must go to...
Well, unfortunately, we do have to cross